The observation deck stretched across the entire forward section of the Stellar Harmony, a diplomatic vessel that housed over 40 species in careful coexistence. Through the reinforced transparisteel, a nebula painted the void in shades of violet and gold, beautiful, distant, and utterly indifferent to the pain of those who watched it. Myra Lorne sat cross-legged on the cold floor, her back against the viewing panel, staring not at the cosmos but at her hands. They trembled slightly, a aftershock from the message she'd received 3 hours ago. Earth was fine. Her family was fine. But the colony on Kepler 442b, the one she'd helped establish, the one filled with friends and colleagues, had been lost to a cascade reactor failure. 2,000 souls, gone in an instant. She'd come here because humans grieved alone. It was what they did, what she'd always done. To burden others with sorrow felt like weakness, like an imposition on a ship where everyone had their own duties, their own problems. The door hissed open behind her. Myra didn't turn. Probably a crew member on their break, come to admire the view. They'd leave when they saw her. But the footsteps didn't retreat. They pattered light, cautious, multiple sets. Then came a sound she recognized, the soft chirping language of the Valkyrie cubs. The Valkyrie were a species of furred, bipedal beings who resembled Earth's foxes crossed with bears, standing barely 4 feet tall in adulthood. Their young cubs, as humans called them, were even smaller, covered in downy fur and possessing eyes far too large for their faces. The Stellar Harmony carried 3 Valkyrie families, and their cubs had become fixtures around the ship, curious and fearless in the way only children could be. "Human Myra?" A small voice asked in heavily accented galactic standard. She looked up. Cub Hasku stood before her, clutching a thermal blanket nearly as large as himself. His rust-colored fur stood on end with nervousness, his whiskers twitching. Behind him, 4 more cubs peered around the doorway, their eyes glowing softly in the dim observation deck lighting. "Hello, Hasku," Myra managed, her voice rough. She tried to smile. "I'm okay." "You don't need to." But Hasku was already moving forward, dragging the blanket across the deck. He stopped in front of her and with great ceremony unfurled it and draped it over her shoulders. It smelled like cinnamon and warmth. "You are cold," Hasku announced with the confidence of someone who would accept no argument. "We see you sit long time." "Very cold here." Myra pulled the blanket tighter, surprised by how much she actually needed it. "Thank you." The other cubs took this as permission to approach. They emerged from the doorway like a tiny parade, each carrying something. Cub Rena brought a pouch of dried fruit-sweet tangles that the Valkyrie loved. Cub Mosik carried a datapad playing soft musical tones. Cub Tilna and Cub Wesson together hauled a cushion nearly twice their combined size. They arranged themselves around Myra without asking, creating a small circle. Wesson pushed the cushion behind her back. Tilna offered the fruit. Mosik set the datapad down, and gentle music filled the space, not human music, but something that carried the same melancholy beauty. "Why are you doing this?" Myra asked, bewildered. Her throat felt tight. Hasku tilted his head, ears swiveling. "Our parent mothers teach us, when pack member sits alone, pack comes. When pack member is sad, pack shares warmth." He patted her knee with a small, 3-fingered hand. "You are pack now. We are pack." Something broke in Myra's chest, not painfully, but like ice cracking in spring. Tears welled up, and she didn't fight them. They spilled down her cheeks as she looked at these small beings who barely knew her, who had no obligation to care, who had nonetheless decided she was worth their time. "I lost friends today," she whispered. "Many friends. Far away." The cubs exchanged glances, communicating in a rapid series of chirps and ear movements. Then as one they moved closer. Hasku climbed into her lap. Rena pressed against her left side. Tilna curled up on her right. Mosik and Wesson flanked her like small furry guardians. They didn't offer platitudes. They didn't try to fix her pain. They simply stayed, their warmth seeping through the blanket, their presence solid and real and undemanding. "Human Myra," Hasku said after a long silence. "Our teacher guardian says humans are strange pack. Humans travel far from Den World, go to dark places, build new homes where there is nothing. Very brave. Very strong." He looked up at her with those enormous eyes. "But teacher says humans forget pack is not weak thing. Pack is strong thing. Strongest thing." Myra couldn't speak. She could only hold these small beings who had decided, in their simple wisdom, that she shouldn't face her grief alone. An hour passed, then 2. The nebula continued its slow dance across the viewport. Crew members occasionally passed by, saw the scene, and quietly moved on, spreading the word. Let them be. Eventually, adult Valkyrie arrived, Hasku's parent mother among them. But instead of collecting their children, they simply brought more blankets, more cushions, more food. They sat at a respectful distance, creating an outer circle around the inner one, a greater warmth. When Myra finally spoke again, her voice was steadier. On Earth, she said, we have a saying. It takes a village to raise a child. But maybe it takes a village to heal anyone. Hasku yawned, showing tiny fangs. What is village? Pack, Myra said, pulling the blanket tighter around all of them. Village is pack. Yes, Hasku agreed, already drowsing. Human Myra understands now, and she did. Humanity had gone to the stars thinking they needed to be strong, independent, unbreakable. They'd carried that isolation like armor. But here in the dark between worlds, a handful of alien cubs had taught her what her species was still learning. Strength wasn't in standing alone. It was in knowing when to let others stand with you. The nebula glowed eternal beyond the transparisteel, and beneath its light, Myra Lorne sat surrounded by warmth, finally understanding that grief shared was not grief doubled. It was grief survived. And survival, she realized, had always been humanity's greatest talent. Even when they needed help remembering how.